Okay, well, let's get started because we have lots to talk about today. For those of you I haven't met before, my name is Rebecca Penn. I'm the project manager of the Substance Use Health Network and your host for today. So I'd like to start us off with acknowledging that we're gathering together today on a virtual platform coming from all across Canada and also beyond. I think we have a couple of people joining us from outside of Canada as well. Even though we're virtual, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land in which we're all situated. Myself, I am on the traditional ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people in Sogum-Kigum, Mi'kmaqi, which is colonially known as Shelburne, Nova Scotia. Because we're joining from all over, I would like to invite you to take a moment to reflect on the land on which you are living. And if you'd like to put that in the chat, that's great. We'd love to meet you as well and learn the different places that people are from. And also invite you to take a moment to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of the lands where you are joining us from today. And together, thank them for their stewardship and take the opportunity to recommit to learning about their history, culture, and their contributions. I also want to acknowledge that, I also wanted to point out this website, Decolonial Atlas. If you haven't seen it before, it's got some great resources there, some really interesting things to learn about there. I also want to acknowledge that Canada's history is one of multiculturalism and immigration. We have people from all over the world who have chosen to make what we call Canada home. And this has created a very diverse and vibrant society that brings a range of cultural traditions and practices and ways of being in the world. Those of you joining us today, many of you are involved in work, social work, healthcare work, social policy, and I'm sure many of you are people who work every single day to try to make the world a better place, to address social structural harms that are rooted in racism and colonialism. And I just want to think about that as we talk about the work as we talk through the work today, and think about how so many of the practices, policies, institutions that show up in our daily lives are reflective of ongoing impacts of colonialization and do influence how people's wellness in the world and their experience of the world. And with that, also think about how Indigenous people and members of Black communities, or other racialized communities, are disproportionately impacted by policies such as criminalization of substances and people who use them. Thank you for sharing in the chat where you're from. And I also, as we move to housekeeping, I also want to give a shout out to Andrei Zielinski, who is my helper, my supporter, my right hand today. Andrei is taking care of supporting with the chat. Andrei is sharing some links in the chat. Andrei is a member of the Reclaim Collective team who have been an incredible partner to the Substance Use Health Network. So shout out to Ajay, thank you. I just want to do some very quick housekeeping. We are recording this event and I will get it up on our website as soon as we can. We will include the slides from the presentation today. Yeah, probably I'll have that up by Monday. We do have the closed captions available. They're enabled on Zoom here. Unfortunately, we just have English available today, English language. There is a question and answer box. That's a place where you can put any questions that you have for our presenters, our speakers today. If you put them in the chat, we'll lose them. So if you have any questions, please put them in the question and answer box so we can make sure we address them when it comes to the discussion time. After the presentation, before we get to questions and discussion, I'm going to ask you to complete a very quick poll for me. Please do it. It helps me a lot with funding applications, stats, all of that kind of stuff. And importantly, to know if we're doing what is useful for you. I want to take a moment to talk about the Substance Use Health Network. For those of you who are not members or are just newly learning about the Substance Use Health Network, we were formerly known as the National Safer Supply Community of Practice. Our work really focused on supporting the implementation of SUHN-funded safer supply programs, but as funding for those projects has ended and as the work has evolved, so too has the National Safer Supply Community Practice. So we're now the Substance Use Health Network, and we continue with our community of now almost 2,000 people from across Canada and from outside of Canada. We're an interdisciplinary network of people who have lived and living experience, people who are involved in healthcare, social services, policy, public health, research, advocacy, all kinds of different roles. If you haven't joined us and you want to learn more, please head over to our website. Our focus right now is on really supporting the development or expansion of an accessible evidence-based continuum of substance use healthcare that is grounded in respect, dignity, equity, and choice. And yeah, our focus is knowledge mobilization, knowledge exchange, capacity building, and very importantly, community building. So again, if you haven't said hello already, please feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know who you are, what brings you here today. And if you haven't joined the community practice, please do so. There's a link that you can click on through the QR code there, or just by going to our website. And then last thing to say before I turn it over to our panelists today, our discussion today, our August Research Spotlight webinar is happening on the 21st at the same time. It's another Thursday at the same time. We have Lindsay Jennings and Alexandra McClellan coming to talk about the Tracking Injustice Project. Their focus there will be on substance use related deaths and really leading a discussion about the intersections of substance use health in carceral settings, and the rights of people who are detained or incarcerated. So you can click on the link in the chat. Oh, it's not there yet, but we'll put it there. Thanks, Andre. Andre's put the link to the Tracking Injustice Project there. Really recommend you check that out. Some really great information. And there, Andre's just put the link to the webinar registration, and we'll have more info there. And now I'm very happy to turn this over to Katherine, Adrian, Charlotte, and Kimberly. I'll let you take it from here. Thank you all so much.
Am I okay? Okay. Apologies, everyone, for the tech issues from earlier. Tech issues early on mean ultimately amazing, excellent presentation. Katherine, are you seeing the main slide?
I am, yeah, you're good.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. We all really appreciate it. I know there's always so much going on and competing pressures, and so we just really appreciate that you took time out of your day to join us to hear about these two projects that we are very excited about. Very proud of. And so the presentation is titled Through Their Lens, Using Photovoice and Cellphilms to Understand the Experiences of Clients of Safer Supply Programs in Toronto. So my name's Adrian Guta. I'm an associate professor and Canada Research Chair in the School of Social Work at the University of Windsor. I have been involved in kind of substance use and harm reduction research for well over a decade, and safer supply related research really since about 2019. And it has been kind of a pleasure and an honor to hear from clinicians and service providers, and of course, people who are benefiting from these programs. And sorry, Charlotte, are you okay? Yeah. Want to just thank Rebecca again for her always thoughtful and inclusive land acknowledgement. But I will just add that these projects were conducted on the traditional and unceded territories of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, and Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River First Nation. And so we had some discussions as a team about kind of the tone of today, and we recognize, of course, that these are very difficult times for those of us who care about the health and wellness and well-being of people who use drugs, and of course for people who use drugs and are at risk of the toxic drug supply and of stigma and discrimination and all of the awfulness that is the criminal justice system. And so we want to honor that and again also recognize the challenges with safer supply right now as a model, with many of the wonderful programs having come to an end, and yet also celebrate, the when things were going well, and that there were folks in those programs who really wanted to share their experiences and to talk about how they were impacted by these programs. So we conducted extensive qualitative research with people receiving services from safe supply programs. And again, wanted to capture those stories and experiences. I'm involved in kind of multiple projects looking at different models across Ontario. And very early on, we noticed the kind of the communication gap, and that the kinds of stories that we, especially as qualitative researchers, were hearing is not what was being messaged, right? So all I was seeing is that safe supply was somehow a danger to young people. Right, this was the messaging all over the news, and meanwhile, I was hearing beautiful stories from folks who were benefiting from from having access to safer supply, telling me about how this was giving them a way to reconnect with friends and family, and with, in many cases, with their children, and really wanting to get those stories out. And so we wanted to, oh, sorry, stuff's moving on my screen. So we wanted to, maybe come at this differently through some innovative arts-based approaches, hoping that we could connect, maybe with the public, with policymakers in a different way. And so we tried out Photovoice and Cellphilm techniques, and we'll explain a bit about what those are. to kind of to amplify voices and create more accessible, engaging forms of storytelling. And these projects were conducted, at a time when safe supply programs and harm reduction more generally it felt safer, but was kind of starting to be at risk. And we started to feel that pushback. Participants in some of these projects talked about kind of feeling the stress of that coming. And so we just wanted to kind of honor that. And yet collectively, we thought these stories are really important and we still wanted to get them out there. So I will turn it over to Katherine.
Thanks, Adrian. So, hi, folks. I'm Katherine. I'm a postdoc at the University of Windsor, and I was the lead researcher on the first study that we're going to be sharing with you today, the Women's Experiences of Safer Supply Programs photo study.
Katherine, I think you've muted yourself.
Sorry. Hopefully, hopefully you heard that. I said I'll be talking about the first study. So here are some of the others involved in the study, including researchers from several universities, our research assistant Charlotte, who's helping with the slides, and we'll be talking through some of the photos for this research project as well. Our key community partners who are part of this, and our advisory group, aptly named the SNAP Advisory, who helped to guide this project, and also wanted to acknowledge our research funding from the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. So before we share some of the incredible photos and captions taken by the participants, I just wanted to give a bit of background around the Photovoice method. So this visual research methodology developed in the 90s takes aspects of the participatory action research approach and a critical thinking approach, and puts cameras into the hands of people who are not often heard, people who don't often have decision-making authority, but those who are most closely and most often impacted by the issues at hand and by the programs that they're participating in. Three main goals of a Photovoice approach are to enable participants to both record and reflect on their own and their community's strengths and concerns, to promote some critical dialogue and create knowledge around what the important issues are through this discussion and presentation of photographs, and to reach a wider audience, including decision makers, and hopefully make change as part of that. So next slide. So I'm just going to give you an overview of our methods and talk a little bit about how we adapted Photovoice for this group, but I won't go into super detail there. I'm happy to answer any questions in the question and answer period if folks are interested. So for the goals of our project, we wanted to support participants to document their experiences on safer supply and show what an impact these programs were having on their lives through the medium of photos. And we wanted to create knowledge, action, and advocacy to sort of impact both sustainability and reach of those programs. We engaged women and gender diverse clients at 2 Toronto-based safer supply programs in 2 phases. The first running between October 2023 and June 2024, and engaging 10 participants, and the second running between October 2024 and April 2025, and engaging 5 participants as part of that project or phase of the project. In terms of the structure of our study, we started with group photo training sessions. We had several of these to keep them fairly small. This involved bringing participants together in a group session, providing them with digital cameras and getting them comfortable using those cameras. So a lot of hands-on taking photos, knowing how to delete photos, and playing with the different aspects of the camera, and also talking through the purpose of the project and providing some guidelines in the form of photo prompts, which I'll share in just a bit, to help sort of guide the photo taking process, which was the second part of the study. So after these initial training sessions and getting folks comfortable with the equipment and those pieces, we asked folks to take their cameras and go out and take photos. And this was structured in, they were asked to take 5 photos a day for 5 days. For some, this did take a bit longer, and we were quite flexible with how this worked. But this gave us a lot of touch points with people. They could kind of come in and ask questions if things were coming up for them. And it gave us a way to sort of maintain contact throughout the study as much as folks wanted or needed. After they completed taking their photos, it also gave folks quite a few photos to choose from in the next stage, which was an interview stage, where folks brought all of their photos and got to sit down and select which ones they wanted to speak to and which ones they wanted to create captions for to later share in our community event or photo exhibition. And a final part of the research and data collection portion of the study were focus groups, where folks went back to others who were taking part in the study and were able to share their photos in that small group to start and to sort of discuss connections, similarities, and differences between the types of photos they took and what they were sharing in their captions. And this also gave us additional opportunities to connect with participants who were part of this project about what they wanted that community event or final photo exhibition to look like. So we were able to do some of the planning for that during that piece. And we will share photos of the community event and photo exhibitions for each of the phases of the study in just a bit. So I just wanted to share some of the photo prompts that we developed together with the SNAP advisory group to guide the photo taking process for folks. So it was these 2 photo prompts primarily. So please show what Safer Supply means to you, and please show how Safer Supply has impacted your life. And now we'll turn to taking you through and discussing some of the key intersecting, and as you'll see, very interrelated themes as we show you some of the photos from the project and their captions. Ideally, you'd be able to take your time and immerse yourself in these photos and read the full caption that participants created, but in the interest of time and being able to show you a variety of these photos, we will highlight certain aspects or significant pieces for you here. So if you could just go to the next slide. So throughout the project and through their photos, participants described how Safer Supply created opportunities for both stability and security. This is something we heard often. That encompassed things like their folks' physical health, access to secure housing, and for many impacted financial security on a certain level. Participants shared stories of experiencing better health and pain management, perhaps an easier time accessing and keeping their healthcare appointments or sticking with their care plan, and less fear of overdose from unknown substances. Access to Safer Supply also provided a level of economic stability for some participants, which meant that they could focus on things like maintaining their living space or buying food for themselves or caring for their pets in different ways. And participants also described profound relief of no longer having to engage in criminalized activities or placing themselves in dangerous situations to access drugs, creating a sense of safety and security that became the foundation for other positive changes in their lives. So just to show you some of the example photos here. So this first one, the participant named their photo, it's 2 photos placed together, from chaos to healing. They say that's my walker, and the mess behind it kind of represented my life before Safer Supply, just the chaos of everything. Trying to find stuff, trying to get to work, trying to feed the cats, trying to feed myself. Prior to Safer Supply, it was more of a struggle trying to make those decisions. Do I feed the cats or do I feed myself? Whereas I actually have money now, I have 50 bucks in my wallet, and still right now a couple of bucks in the bank for laundry and food. My fridge and freezer are full right now, which is really nice. And the person also wanted to underline that their pain was managed, which was a big thing. Once I got on Safe Supply, I went from using my walker to my cane. So for me, it was showing a level of healing, as they say. The next example here, this person discusses their journey from a tent to their own place. So she says, I'd be down in the tent thinking, how am I going to get my shit together and get a place? In Toronto, it's fucking impossible. This is the apartment I have now. It's kind of messy, but it's beautiful. I couldn't have asked for a better place. I'm downtown and there's no bugs. It's all brand new. I feel like a queen. She goes on to say, this really makes me happy, my own place. I can lock the door, come back, and nothing's stolen. It makes a huge difference in my life. And she goes on to say, I finally got a safe spot. It's small, but it's okay. It's bigger than a tent, right? It's a nice place. I'm really lucky. And then the last photo here, again, underlining this idea of stability and the broad impacts there. So this is called Now I Have Crazy Stability. And the person first describes their life before Safer Supply. I didn't even notice when holidays came and went. I just didn't care. As long as my dealer was available, it was just another day. Safe Supply made me care more about everything, every aspect of my life and care. The person goes on to say, I don't feel the need to participate in anything criminal anymore. I choose when and where I want to be. Before, I was constantly worried about where I was going to get my next dose. Because when you're not, they also then shift to talking about their health. My health was declining because I wasn't seeing the proper doctor. I wasn't sticking to the care plan, because when you're not stable, you don't have a choice. Sometimes it just slips to the wayside. And then they describe their life now. Now I have crazy stability. I work. I have a life with my family again. I'm spending the holidays with them. I have stable housing and I have a job, and I do a lot with my community. So the next piece we wanted to bring up was how participants described how this Safer Supply transformed their ability to connect meaningfully with others and participate in community life. Before accessing the program, many had experienced profound isolation, and they found that Safer Supply provided them with the opportunities and also with the stability needed to rebuild a lot of different connections. Participants shared stories of learning to have conversations again, finally being able to participate in family gatherings, as we heard in the previous photo, and developing meaningful bonds with others. The program also enables those who were parents to be emotionally present for their children and allowed individuals to contribute to their communities. So I'll give you some examples here. This one entitled, I'm Not an Alien in the Community Anymore. So Safe Supply gave me a way that I'm able to communicate better with people. This guy's a dog walker in the community, and I used to always see him, but I used to always be fucked up in the mind, you know, and he used to be almost scared of me or something. Because a lot of people that get high were antisocial because you isolate. I didn't know how to socialize with the community, so I had to learn to have conversations again. When I got on the Safe Supply program, I was social, and this was what the program's been giving me. It's nice to be able to talk to people in the community. And here, this one's called A Connection You Can't Put Your Finger On. This person explains, before I started Safe Supply, I was pregnant and looking for options to ensure the safety of my baby. I heard about the SOS program and it seems like a good option, but it took me a while to actually access it. I was homeless for a while and I got into family housing, and through family housing, I was able to enroll in the program, and I'm absolutely so grateful. It's definitely saved my life. In this picture, I wanted to show our hands. It's my hand and my son's hand, being able to connect. A lot of times when you're doing drugs, you don't get to go to family events, you don't get to be a part of that. And just being able to participate is really special. Even though I don't know if he really sees me as mommy, we still have a connection that you can't put your finger on. And this one called Old Souls and New Lives. I like this photo because it represents order in the fact that we've got food in the oven rather than scrounging for scraps in the garbage. Someone is cooking something, so now there's just more time to sort of be able to do that than there was before Safer Supply. It's a clean kitchen. Well, the dishes aren't done, but I mean, it's still a clean house. My boyfriend, who's also on Safer Supply, his work boots are by the door. He does contracting and stuff. This shows a clean floor as opposed to the boots being kicked off all over the house. He's just standing back, you know, relaxing. It's about security and comfort, just the way he's leaning back, like the way he's got his legs crossed, just completely nonchalant. There is no urgency or anything. It's more of like, you can wait for the food to be ready and then enjoy it together. Now I'll hand it to Charlotte to take us through the next two themes.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. Okay, so the next theme that we heard a lot of people talking about in the interviews, and that people took photos around, was self-worth and personal growth. And so participants described transformations in how they viewed themselves and their potential for growth and self-care after accessing Safer Supply. And many shared histories of stigma, discrimination, and low self-esteem. So people spoke about how Safer Supply provided the mental and emotional space that was necessary for rediscovering their sense of self-worth and exploring their interests. And participants described how staff and community members helped them to recognize their value. And with the constant pressure to obtain drugs removed, participants described how they found time to engage in meaningful activities like crafts, reading, and traditional medicines that help them reconnect with who they were beyond their substance use. And so I'll talk through a couple of examples here, show you a couple of examples. So this photo is titled Feeling Good About Myself. And she said, in this photo, I'm happy. I mean, I have my down days where I feel depressed, like I don't have a whole lot of energy. So this was one of my good days. I've always had low self-esteem even before I got into drugs. And once I got into drugs, my self-esteem just dropped way down. But being on the SOS program, I feel better about myself. She goes on to say, you know, I have people telling me you're a good person, you have a good heart, you have potential, you got to start believing in that. And I never believed in that until lately. So the program has something to do with it. A lot of the staff that work here, I feel like I could talk to them, and that makes me feel good. The next example is this photo titled, I'm exploring, getting to see what I'm really like. And they say, I'm just exploring with different hobbies now and getting to see what I'm really like. These were crafts that were made in my building. We have different ceremonies, and these were dream catchers. We do drumming and we sing. It's a great release. We smudge. It's wonderful just doing stuff, period. Before Safe Supply, that wasn't an option. I might start it, but I wouldn't finish it. I'd be off to go score or God knows what. I collect art now too, and I can participate in different activities. On Friday night, we had the full moon ceremony. And then talking about what she'd like for her future. I'd like to be an activist, a community activist, to share what I know. And the next example is titled Colors of My Daily Emotions. I love drawing. I'm very good with my hands, very artistic. I'm trying to put more time into it now that I'm back to how I used to be. This picture is of something that I colored. Shows my emotions of needing Safe Supply and my daily routine, because that's what I do every day. I go and have a tea or coffee, I sit down and I just get my book and start coloring. It's my motivation to myself. I like to see a difference in myself. When I do something, I credit myself. I give myself stickers or little sayings or colorful things. I like to do something good for myself when I achieve a goal. And if I do something for myself, it's like I deserve that. And the next theme that a lot of people took photos of and discussed was hope and future orientation. And participants described how Safer Supply shifted their relationship with time from day-to-day survival to future planning and hope. Before accessing the program, many people described living in ongoing crisis where each day was consumed by the immediate need to secure drugs. But Safer Supply created the stability necessary for participants to begin envisioning different futures for themselves. People described being able to set goals, whether that was obtaining identification documents, securing permanent housing, or pursuing creative interests, and having the time and the resources to work towards achieving these goals. Participants also spoke of rediscovering their capacity for growth and change, using metaphors like plants flourishing in difficult conditions and seasons changing to represent their own transformation. And the first example is this photo titled, or it's two photos titled, Growing Beautifully in Rough Situations. And they said, this is bark, but it looks like calluses. Living a street life gives you calluses, but they can still look beautiful. And the moss is kind of like new life growing on top of it. For a while, when I was using drugs, I did a lot of artwork around drugs and harm reduction. Now I'm making more artwork around rock climbing, mushrooms, plants, stuff like that. On the Safer Supply program, you have time to slow down and enjoy nature around you. You're not hustling to find money, find a dealer, find a spot to use. This is a picture of new life with the greenery taking over the wall, which is just beautiful. It's a plant growing in a precarious situation. It has strong roots and is being resourceful. You can grow beautifully in rough situations. Safer Supply gives you the resources and time to be able to do that. Grow and flourish in rough situations or environments. It's about resilience. Beautiful. This next photo is titled Coming Back to Me. Before I started on Safer Supply, my life was pretty disorganized and I didn't really know where I was going. I was always worried about the future. I knew I wanted to get somewhere more structured, but I was lost. When I found SubHub, everything started changing. I started to feel more motivated. I had more of a sense of purpose. I was actually doing something to better my life as opposed to before when I was just going through the motions and I'd miss my medicine all the time. Being on SOS gave me some hope back because when you're out there, you kind of feel alone. You don't have the supports and people to rely on. This photo is a representation of feeling motivated about getting back to who I am, being open to change, open to what's coming, seeing life in Toronto in a brighter, more positive perspective. I'm coming back to being me. I can't go back to who I was. I can go on to becoming more of me. And this last example is titled New Leaf on Life. And so they start by speaking about sort of life before Safe Supply. My life was terrible because I was pretty much dying. I kept going to the hospital over and over again. So the minute I got out of the hospital, I went straight to Parkdale and got on SOS. From that moment forward, my life has never been better. Safe Supply means getting to relax, to enjoy simple things. Because before, when I was on street drugs, before I'd even used my stuff, I'm actually already thinking about how I'm getting my next stuff. So you never get a chance to just relax. Now, on SOS, you already have your stuff. Your stuff's paid for. You don't have to run and steal. You're not having to boost. You can truly just start enjoying the things that other people enjoy. When you have access to a safer supply of drugs, you know that it's safe. You know that you're not going to die from it. And now, what can you do? You can get housing, you can get a job, and you can function. So it gives you all the tools that you need to be able to survive in life. And I think it's a great program. And now I'll turn it back over to Katherine to discuss the photo exhibits.
We'll see if these actually, the animation works for these photos. So as we mentioned, both of the phases culminated in a community event or a photo exhibition where participants could showcase their photos, and community members, staff, other clients from the health centers were able to attend. This is the first exhibit, which happened in June of 2024 and was hosted in the community health center's garden. It was very well attended. The atmosphere here and at the other exhibit was of a celebration. Participants experienced, and we heard this from them in both cases, high levels of pride in being able to showcase their work. Some said that they felt like artists or real photographers having an opportunity to do that. And if I can just get you to switch over to the next slide, Charlotte. So with the first exhibit, the Community Health Center, had the opportunity to also turn the photos into a permanent outdoor exhibit, which was a suggestion made by some of the participants and also by the SNAP advisory, where the photos were placed along the fence lines of both of the health center sites, and was another way to reach sort of a broader community audience with these stories. And then just this next slide there. And this is example number 2 of the photo exhibits at the end of the second phase. This was in April of 2025, so we had to look for an indoor venue. There was a church space across the street from the health center that gave us space to showcase the photos. Again, a well attended event, and folks felt very happy and proud to be able to showcase their photos in this way. And now I'm actually going to, before we actually go to that slide, but I guess it doesn't matter, I'm going to hand it over to a participant from one of these phases of the Photovoice project, Kim, to talk about her experiences in being part of this project and taking some of the photos that we showed you today. So Kim, if you don't mind.
Hi, everyone. So I wasn't certain, but I would just put in the chat. I don't know, were all 3 of mine read, or were 2 left for me to read? Because I noticed that the road less traveled, I might have been in the washroom though, but the road less traveled and the sky's the limit, were those read?
They weren't. If you'd like to read them,
Okay.
yeah, we had one of yours featured there. If you want to read those ones and share them as
Yeah.
well.
Well, here, I'll talk a little bit to the one that was read, the new leaf,
Yeah.
new leaf on life. So for me, basically, like what it is, it's about expressing yourself, right? So Safe Supply obviously is, I can't say enough good things. I mean, I was never on fentanyl, but I was a heroin addict. And so 6 years ago, I ended up getting really sick. I got a very serious bacterial infection. And because of stigma, they kept saying, go home, it's the drugs. And it wasn't, obviously. So, I ended up having to lie and say that I had endocarditis just to get them to admit me. And then once I was in there, then I said, well, I don't know what I have. I'm not a doctor, but thanks for at least letting me be a patient here. So it ended up being very serious MRSA infection. And I was there for 7 days. And then I basically had to wear a tank for 8 weeks of IV. I had to go every day to Women's College Hospital to hopefully improve because it was going to my heart. So I ended up with heart failure because of it. So that's why I do a lot of the communities and everything that I do is because of stigma, and because I can't say it myself, but I can definitely help to let it be known out there that this goes on. And so this project for me was beautiful, because with Safe Supply, it happened at a time when I was in the hospital. Chris came to me and he goes, my husband, and he says, Kim, I'm going to save our life. And I didn't know what it meant or anything like that, but he went over to Parkdale, the one at Bathurst. And there was, at that time, it was just 3 doctors talking about it. Dr. Mann, Nancy Ray, and Sonica Kate. And then there was, a couple of us just like advisory people. And that was the creation of where this Safe Supply was coming to be, right? So we were on it for 6 years. So up until the defunding, and then we all know what's happened since then. But for the 6 years we have not used any fentanyl, and we're completely off the needles. So it saved our lives. I can't say enough good things. So when this came out, it was just a way to be able to really show, how important that program is, and in such I think a great way, because. And it was fun though, just going out there and thinking, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna figure this out? Okay, but honestly, I took a couple of pictures, and then I'll never forget when I did my interview. I had no idea what I was gonna say, but when we talked about it, it was just the words just flowed. It was okay, and this is and they were so perfect for the picture, right? So it was all really meant to be, and I really am grateful for you ladies to allow this to happen for my life, because I think that I think more programs should be, doing this kind of stuff. If you give, addicts, not even current users, but like just people that have addictions, the hardest part of getting sober or getting, a new way of, whether you do harm reduction or whether you do, like I say, I call it like opiate replacement. So you're not necessarily, abstinence, but you're not getting high anymore. So it's basically just it's like tricking your brain, right? It's basically telling your brain you've got what you need. Now let's focus on, housing and all that other good stuff. We're not having to worry about it. And then, if you wish to, because like now, especially after the defunding, I've decided to go ahead and taper off. So I am coming down off of it because at this point it's been 6 years, and now I instead of going twice a week to the pharmacy, I have to go every day. So it really puts a big dent into my day, right? It really affects me. I'm on 10 committees and trying to hold that together, and the pharmacy, especially like, after proving yourself that you are responsible and no problems in 6 years, and then have that taken from you. So here, back to what I'm saying here. So just a little insight on where I'm coming from with this, but so the new leaf on life, basically, it is what it's saying. It's just giving it, giving a person a chance to, do you want to be that, do you want to be the good leaf or the wilty one? The sky's the limit is kind of, it's kind of funny because, like, from somebody that's not with addiction, like, you might not know this, but a lot of people, like, there's jokes about it, but it'll say, if someone comes over and it's like they'll be crumbing around, like what that means is like they're looking around the floor for drugs, or they'll, I've called people Hoover before because they're like, I'm like, wait, stop, I got a vacuum, like, what are you doing to my carpet, right? But it's not a joke, but that's what happened. So when I saw this, it made me feel like that's what I should express, because it says the safe supply means being able to slow down and just be able to appreciate the beauty of the skies above us. Taking this picture, I was looking up at the sky and saying, wow, I know I've made it somewhere good in life, because when I'm using, I'm never able to take the time to even bother to do something to like look at the sky. When you're a junkie and you're in it and you're always crumbing, you're always looking to the ground, you're looking to find a joint, you're looking to find a rock, but you're never looking up because there's nothing up there, right? So when you're free to be where you are looking, you're looking up towards the sky, which is freedom. The sky's the limit. So for me, just to be able to be relaxed enough to find beauty in that shows that I'm doing something good. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but that is huge, right? It's so huge to be able to have the time to take, just slow down and not constantly grinding, and that constant, like, I can't explain it better than this, and that is when you get your fix and you're having an expensive habit, like, $300 a day, $1,000 a day, you as soon as you get your fix, you're always looking to the next one. So you're not enjoying even the one that you have, right? So in the beginning it might be fun, but once you're fully into that addiction, there's nothing fun about it anymore. So this program just really gave us the ability to find a different way, and these kind of projects, it shows other people that that haven't maybe weren't able to get on the program, that there's options out there, and and I think it was just a really good way. Plus it gave I think somebody was saying just about the self-esteem. It gave people the way to interact with people again. So I loved it. This program, and then the next one you're going to talk about, out of all the programs I've done, are my favorites. And then last but not least, the other one basically has a picture of it has like a flower and then a dead flower. So safe supply has changed everything. It gave me a way that if I could function normally, I don't plan on staying on it forever, but still it gave me a way to get off the street drugs and deal with the end of things. The daily grind is gone, the danger is gone, and now I've got an apartment that I can maintain. I've got a few positions that I hold down pretty well. I just like spending time with my dog. I do a lot of advocating. Everything's possible now. because you're getting yourself on a program and you're getting yourself right. And I think if I was to take this across, I think it starts out with which like it was like the Matrix, like the red pill or the blue pill, but it was like which one are you gonna pick? Do you want to be that pretty rose, or do you want to be the wilted, the wilted one that's dying over here? So those are my three ones. But I love this, and I hope that gives you guys a little bit of insight so you can take it over, and I'll be here whenever you guys want me to discuss the other one. So
Thank you,
thanks
Kim.
for having
Kim.
me. Thank you.
Thanks. And Kim was just reading from some of the other photos that she took as part of the project. And I wanted to say that we're hoping to put up a digital gallery of all of the photos. So you'll be able to see all of them. We're just in the process of figuring that out. And we'll definitely share that through Rebecca and through SUHN when we have that figured out. But I'll hand it back to Adrian to take us through the second study.
Thank you. And
Yeah,
that'll be great. Thanks for putting that into the works, because I'm sure a lot of people would benefit from that. Okay, take it away. Thanks.
thanks, Kim. Thanks for coming and for sharing that, and just for highlighting everything that I was also thinking after seeing those photos. In a lot of health research, especially public health research, we're very focused on like certain things that often don't speak to the needs and goals of participants. And what I have loved about all the safe supply research that I've been involved in, and especially these projects, is hearing from folks say, actually, I'm going to tell you what really matters to me and what I think is important. And I was just sitting here watching or like seeing the photos go by and just thinking, I love that for you, for when people were expressing what they wanted and maybe getting a little misty-eyed. So photos are wonderful. And certainly when they have text with them, and they can say a lot, but we thought, maybe we would try to mix it up a bit and try something called Cellphilm. And this was for a project called Cellphilms Against Substance Use Stigma. Thanks, Charlotte. And it's a fabulous team with folks from Park. Oh, sorry, do you mind just go back for a sec? Parkdale, Queen West. Just want to extend my endless appreciation, especially to Kate Atkinson. And, this great team from across Canada. I'd want to highlight Sarah Flicker and Katie McEntee, who, if you're interested in this approach, they're the people to look into. And this was funded by the Ontario HIV Treatment Network. Sorry, thanks, Charlotte. So Cellphilms, if you've been on Instagram, TikTok, any of that, it's sort of, like these short little videos, folks telling stories in different ways. Typically you'd use a phone, but you can use tablets and stuff like that. And they're made in response to a research prompt. And the prompt that, we'll get there, it's okay. Sorry, am I jumping all over the place? Okay. Anyways, we wanted to support a small group of people who use drugs, who were currently on safe supply or had been in a safe supply program, document their experiences and, again, the impacts on their lives. And then we also conducted interviews with Cellphilm workshop participants. I think it's a cell phone there, and autocorrect does that every single time, and that's okay. Next. So we had an advisory group and a facilitator who kind of helped actually kind of train all of us. And a total of 13 participants took part. We kind of pitched this as a pilot study to see if this would be a good approach. We held 4 workshop days in September of 2024 and an additional drop-in day in October. And so we ended up getting back a total of 6 six Cellphilms completed by 7 participants, and then 6 semi-structured interviews conducted with workshop participants between October 2024 and January of 2025. Next. And the prompt I mentioned earlier, sort of as part of this process, the one that we went with was kind of because of safe supply, and asking folks to reply to that in whatever way they wanted that made sense to them. And so we have some videos, which we'll see if we can play the audio. There is embedded text as well. So if the audio doesn't play, there is still something to look at. This video, so fingers crossed, Catherine's keeping her fingers crossed. So this one is about, that safe supply saves lives. And this one is text heavy. So if there's no audio, we can just enjoy the text and images.
I'm gonna try. Well, let's see
Yeah.
if this works.
So the creator here reached out to friends who then kind of all responded to the prompt. So apologies that the audio, the music isn't playing. But just sharing messages from actually a whole bunch of folks, not just them, about what Safe Supply has done for them. And not to brag, but some of us got to star in that video as sign holders. And then maybe we can go to the next one. And again, apologies. We'll try to post these in a way that is accessible and where we have the audio.
Just a thought. Like for mine, what I can do, I can play it and because you'll hear it come through, right? So you would be able to hear
Okay,
it if you guys
we can
play
do
the
that for
thing.
yours. Yeah.
I can do the audio. So okay, no problem. I'll just keep going.
So let's see. So this is from a participant named Bruce, and they signed their video. And who really wanted to emphasize the benefits for themselves, and also kind of
Sorry, I was just going to suggest, I don't know if this would be worth it, but maybe just restarting the slides now that there's no one else sharing, and then you can select the audio. Because this one, there's a lot of talking. The participant shares a lot of stories outside of just the caption, so it might be worth it. And it is a bit of a longer video.
Sure. I'll just quickly stop the screen share then, and then just see if this works.
Yeah, that would be great. And I can help you figure out what slide it was.
Yeah,
Slide 37.
It's unfortunately still not working.
That. Oh.
So just want to show kind of the different approaches, and then we'll highlight Kim's video, which has fabulous audio, which she'll play. So participants took different approaches with their video making. Some used animation, drawing kind of cartoons. Bruce kind of takes us out sort of into his life. He's on a bike ride, going through the city and talking about how much Safe Supply has helped him with his health and wellness and connecting with friends and family, and so that he can do this, that he can get on his bike and just be in the city. And it's a longer piece, and he goes into a lot of detail, and it's really powerful and beautiful, and so just want to thank him for that. And Kim, do you want to talk about your creative process and share? Oh, you're muted.
I just had to get to it. Yeah, sure. So basically, we were trying to figure out just something that, because with everything with the site closures and just everything that was going on, a lot of frustration with around the fact that he's paying, and we're not getting too political, but just a lot of frustration around the fact that we're going to cut funding on a program that I mean, even the auditor's reports, the auditor general, it's 72 pages saying this thing is great, and yet we're cutting this, but we're going to pay $250 million to end a contract with the beer stores early so they can be right across the street selling alcohol from the high schools and whatnot. So for us, it was just more of like we didn't want to be too political, and we didn't really wear the masks because we were afraid or anything, but we just didn't want a headache or anything, because I know, like, even I'm sure everyone knows Zoe, but sometimes just some of the stuff she does, like she'll get even threats and stuff, and it's like it's people just sometimes take things the wrong way. So we just did it more for a safety thing, but it was also kind of for fun thing, because we wanted to get a message across in a way that people would maybe take some humor to it, because everything's so down, and with all these deaths and everything else, it's just a lot of just morbid stuff. So just try to remember that we need to take time to smile. So
Do you want
I
us?
yep, I can play it.
Do you want us to show it and then you can
that'd
play
be
it?
great. Let me tell you when. Let me just, because I'd like to try to link it at the same time here. We'll do the best in that way.
Count
Hold on.
me in.
Okay, so I'm gonna push play, and then it's just at the beginning. So let's just try to do it. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear it? OSOO, the S is to supply, that is there to keep us alive. SOS, baby. SOS, baby. Dixie grabs the organ tightly until SOS hardly muffled, no legs, so good. And you can see the words are there too. The fool thinks he's so cool, selling alcohol trucks in the schools in a kiddie pool. SOS, baby. What's SOS, baby? Pretty strong and awful strong. It was the word to Mr. Scott. Here it is a hundred stars. We're finally change the words with your truth, right? So it's not less cultural, right? Our toward not bargaining and so much unnecessary church. All these nursing things here. Listen, so though. There will be so many deaths on a chance. Spencer claims that he has a great plan. As the truth comes out, we'll see what he's really about. Lies, 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 lies. Our hearts was lifted and our stomachs snap off. Just let it come. We understand that no matter what, the first word plan is not done. You have to go. So friends, homeless or house purchasers and drugs or not, we rise together, each solidarity, without judgment, without stigma, and with cohesive equality. It's not our message until this matter, which will make positive changes. Grab one, shut off, Doug Ford and the silent killer needs to be stopped. SOS. We move in. That's the left for life. So, the other thing is, it was like for Ice Ice Baby, right? So I thought, oh, what a good song. But what's funny is, and I don't know, I can't remember which site it was, but one of the sites that I posted it to, they said because of the length of time, the clips for the where they're scratching, that it violates like copyright. So like you get like I'm gonna find out more about it, but like, so in other words, maybe if it was like, say it was 3 seconds and maybe the limit's 2, I want to find out more about it, because obviously you want to know for future, because I mean, messages like that I think are great because they're in good fun, but really it's putting on a point that people need to know, right? So anyways, but you guys heard it okay?
For those of you who couldn't, it was very well done over you know, like the beats to like Ice Vanilla Ice's Ice Baby. And Kim, I'll just let you know that the first time I saw it, Katherine had sent me a link, and I think I was kind of half asleep, and I started watching it, and it woke me up. It really did.
Yeah.
Was not
Thanks.
expecting the masks, but obviously love the message. Um, and just wanted to share Kate, who I highlighted earlier. She wasn't able to be here, but she wanted to pass along some words, kind of working with researchers on these unique projects that center the voices of people who use drugs has been fulfilling and eye-opening. Having led the SOS program evaluation, I was quite familiar with some of the benefits and needs most commonly identified by program members. However, bringing in expressive media that allows clients to share their experiences more fully highlighted aspects of the program benefits that didn't come through before, especially deeply personal benefits, spending time outdoors, having a new perspective and noticing more detail about life and the landscape, finding comfort at home, even having a space for artistic expression. I would recommend these kinds of partnerships to other agencies because they blend well an approach that prioritizes program members' views, voices, and expression with the critical research skills and knowledge translation capacity of academics. Parkdale Queen West CHC is deeply appreciative of these collaborations and the flexible, supportive approach always taken by our research leads. So, and thank you. And thank you so much, Kate, for just going above and
Is
beyond.
that Kate Atkinson?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Love her to death. She's awesome.
Katherine, is this back to you now?
I think maybe we're going to split this.
Sure. Okay.
One, I can start, and then maybe you can jump
Or
in.
Rebecca, I
later
saw
points.
Rebecca come on. Rebecca, are we okay for time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we just wanted to share some of our learnings in this last slide. So we wanted to sort of underline how we really found from the experiences of participants, and hopefully you heard it in what Kim shared, that these types of arts-based methods can really be used to effectively capture the wide-ranging impacts and values of safer supply programs, which extend far beyond just overdose prevention. We also learned the importance of keeping these methods or approaches very participant centered, and accounting sort of for the various like complexities and life circumstances that folks were dealing with and things that they were managing, including multiple responsibilities and issues that were sort of coming up, which did mean that some folks had more limited capacity for sustained engagement. So we looked for different ways to provide sort of multiple opportunities for low barrier engagement, and added additional ways that folks could get engaged to how much they wanted to. And sort of related to that, taking a flexible and responsive approach, again, using sort of gentle encouragement and different ways that folks could kind of get involved as much as that they wanted to, rather than sort of rigid expectations of what these arts-based methods wanted, or saying that there was sort of like a right way to participate. We really left it up to participants to decide how much they wanted to participate, in what ways they wanted to use the method to share their stories, and empowered them to sort of tell the stories in the ways that they wanted to, or that worked for them. Do you want to talk about maybe the technology accessibility piece?
Yes, which I think I'm kind of just seeing, or I'm seeing with fresh eyes for the first time, and I don't know how I feel about some of this language in here, but I will read it as a middle-aged person. There were some issues around tech accessibility. and so you want to consider kind of varying levels of tech savviness, kind of across diverse age groups. And I think some of the younger people on this project have highlighted the middle-aged, and sort of like just participants who maybe aren't as comfortable, aren't kind of living their best lives on social media, might not be as familiar with this idea of taking videos and using them in a particular way. And of course, that's that transcends age. It just maybe your interest and comfort level. So we often hear that these projects that it's like youth especially like really connect with this because so many of them are kind of on social media already. But so just being mindful of like not everyone is kind of as comfortable, and accessibility issues around technology as well. So we think the majority of participants did have cell phones, but sometimes they weren't working. There were periods when they didn't have them. Unfortunately, sometimes they were lost or stolen. So thinking about maybe having backup devices, that kind of stuff. And that, what for one person in terms of their dexterity and things like that might be very easy to do. Someone else might need more support, hands-on. So you might be more actively involved in somebody's video, either pressing buttons or holding things up, and I think that's all part of the experience. And then budgeting and resource planning, kind of keeping all of this in mind, that things take longer, that you may have to add additional sessions, again, to be accommodating for the realities of participants' lives. Sometimes, and Charlotte, I don't know if you want to speak to this. We had multiple instances of folks who were really excited to come out. They were on their way, and then life kind of threw them a curveball, and they were pulled away, and sometimes couldn't get there, and so scheduling follow-up meetings. And it's good practice, and we all want to do that, but of course there are budgetary considerations, for staff and stuff like that. Other
I think
thoughts?
just have the acknowledgement slide and then we can turn it over to folks who have questions. So we just wanted to thank the study participants for both projects for sharing their experiences, their photos or their videos and their expertise with us. We wanted to acknowledge the SNAP and the Cellphilm community advisory groups for their guidance and work on these projects. And finally, a huge thanks to program staff, Kate Atkinson and Kirsten Howitt for sharing their space, and all of the staff for dedicating their time to ensure the success of these research projects. I guess we can turn it over to questions, if that makes sense. Rebecca, I don't know if you're gonna help with that.
Yeah, for sure. This has just been so moving, and I had a friend and colleague text me during this and saying like, wow, this is so beautiful. I feel emotional. And I was like, yeah, I do too. It's been such an incredible journey, and so amazing to witness people's experiences on safer supply, and hearing from them, and learning and seeing, and then getting to see it in this art form, and as something that's archived too. I think it is fantastic. So I'm really grateful to the research team and to the participants and all the folks that supported to make it happen. I'm going to launch my poll because I need your stats. So here's the poll. But while you're also just quickly answering those questions for me, if there are any questions, please do put them in the chat, or in the Q&A rather. We do have a couple of questions here waiting for you all. So I'll start with that. Well, we have someone who is asking about the ethical considerations in initiating a project like this. Can someone speak to that for me?
Oh, sure. So, yeah, arts-based research, arts-based community-based research has a lot of ethical considerations. So in terms of what is shown, like what's included, it could be very identifying. So individuals, spaces, and we really wanted to be very mindful of that. That's something that we talk a lot about in the training. Absolutely no one has to, include faces. In fact, we kind of strongly, well, I don't want to say discourage, but we have conversations about that. We also know that it's really important to people to be able to tell the story they want, but we have conversations around how images, unfortunately, when taken outside of an environment like this, can take on a life of their own, can be used in not great ways. And so we have multiple conversations about that, kind of checking in multiple times with folks to, to just make sure that they're comfortable with the decision maybe that they made like weeks or months earlier. Katherine, would you add anything?
Yeah, I would say in the, as Adrian's already mentioned, in the Photovoice project especially, we had a lot of questions around if folks could take pictures of others, of their friends, and we came back to the fact that only the participants in that project were the ones who had given us consent to take part and include their photos. So only participants were allowed to feature, if they so chose, their faces in the photos. So that's why you did see some faces. They, if they wanted to include friends or family members in their photos, we strategized different ways that they could do that without identifying who it was. So including like part of their body, which you saw in some of the photos as well, or taking pictures from behind people, or using shadow in creative ways, which people actually had a lot of fun with, and were able to still like capture that community essence of what they wanted to share without the additional steps in having to get consent from other folks to be featured in the photos, which people thought that would be too much pressure, and we didn't want to involve in this project. So that was one of the main things that we talked about and included in our training.
And I think we also offered through the magic of graphic design and video editing as well that we could manipulate photos. So if you took a photo that, has somebody's face in it, you really love the photo, but we've decided that it can't be used, we can do other stuff with that. So we're going to put all of that out on the table for discussion. And I think too, with the multiple check-ins of like, are you sure you're still comfortable? We also want to balance, people's autonomy. Because for a lot of folks who participated, they said, I want the world to know about this, and they kind of understood themselves to be advocates. And so, at a point we heard like, you've asked me, thank you, and please respect my wishes. So just trying to balance all of that, but it's a excellent and super important question. Thank you.
That's great. Another question kind of connected as well. So I think it is an ethical question about budget considerations, particularly for participants. How I read this is around was there a budget for participants? Were they compensated? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, we definitely ensured that, I'll speak to the Photovoice project first, because I think we did things slightly differently, but with the Photovoice project, we ensured that we had funding for equipment, and everyone got access to the same digital camera, so they all had an opportunity to use the same equipment, which helped us with training. And we also, because there were so many touch points and we were asking people to kind of come back for the training and dropping off photos and interviews and then the group sessions, we ensured that at every stage that people were connecting with us, that we were providing honoraria to compensate them and to also show appreciation for their time and kind of connecting with the study again and again. And we came up with that by ongoing discussions with both the service providers who helped to give some feedback on the initial versions of the project, and the advisory group, the SNAP advisory, also talked about how important those pieces would be. So we made sure to do that as the compensation piece. Things were a little bit different with Cellphilm. I don't know if you want to jump into that, Adrian.
So again, these are conversations that we had from the beginning, along with how would the videos be used, how would they be shared, what is appropriate compensation, also balancing that with other compensation that the organization provides. So being respectful of that and being in line with that. Kind of high level, everyone was compensated for kind of every stage, but also kind of being mindful of the difference between coming to maybe an advisory meeting versus kind of sitting down and engaging in a longer process. So also food, drinks, having all of that available, compensating folks more for longer kind of engagement expectation, and building that into the budget, like building that wiggle room into the budget so that we could pivot when we needed to and add extra sessions. And I will say that often that's something you learn in time from not having done that in advance. So don't be shy if you're developing a budget to ask someone who's done it. I'm happy to, if anyone needs support, just because it often will take a lot longer than you might think. And that's for all projects. Yeah.
And actually, that takes us right into the next question. And Jordan's asking about the possibility of like a resource guide that maybe the team could put together about how to do this. Also just wanted to say that Jordan said about just appreciation for the conditions that you created to support these stories and perspectives being shared. So it's fantastic as well. But yeah, what do you think? Is that, but you also mentioned that there are some great resources out there already.
Yeah, we could provide links to the resources we started with or worked from, and we could add our own lessons and additions into what worked well for this community. Kim has
One thing to say, because I'm with one of the committees I'm with Unity, is called TOZAN or Tone. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we're working right now on what's called, it was called DIRC in BC. It's the Drug Users Resource Center. So, which is not, it's not the same along the lines of this, but resources are so important, especially with the closing of the sites and everything. All the resources and all the everything that went along with everything is just kind of went to the wayside. So, people that were able just to go to Parkdale for one thing, now you have to go here, what resumes, housing, there's so many things, right? But to have a resource guide for something like this, because then people can do it on their own within their own communities. And, it can just, like I don't know if I was talking about that, but boredom is one of the biggest things that people have when they're trying to navigate their way away from being on the street, drugs and everything, because you're so used to, your whole time is just like chasing, running. So when you're sitting there idle is not good for somebody that's trying to do to get away. So when you have projects like this or some other things, especially art stuff, it's just so important. So I think it's in any way that I can help with it, I'd be more than happy to help it, to even bring it to that group that we're working with. Zoe Dodd, she's part of it. But there's a lot of good people working on that. But not that the one is the same as the other, but to kind of put everything together and just have somewhere that people can go to say, hey, we want to do something fun. It's just as important as we want to get a resume done. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Kim, thank you so much. We are at a time now, so I'm going to tie us up, first of all, by answering, Katherine, can you just address this question in the chat about will there be a digital archival library resource for the photos and film works later, do you think? Is that something?
That is what we're hoping to pull together, and we're just trying to figure out who might be able to help us with hosting, and we're in talks now. So
Excellent. I'm very pleased about that because there's so many great projects out there, and these are important stories that we need to remember, particularly a very important intervention or approach to care, an important tool in the toolbox of substance use health. And it's important to not lose sight of that role that it has for people. Thank you all so much. Charlotte, Katherine, Adrian, Kim, thank you so much for being here and sharing this important work. Beautiful, moving. It's just been really great. Thank you. Very quickly, I also just want to do a plug for our next webinar about the Tracking Injustice program, or project rather. We have Lindsay and Alex coming to talk about substance use and harms and deaths when being detained and such. So yeah, please come to that. You can find that information on our website. If you haven't joined the community practice already, do consider joining us. Then one of the benefits is getting the newsletter with all the updates about future webinars and things like that. But you can also find all that information on our website. You don't have to be a member to access all the resources we have there. Great. Thank you all so much, and wishing everyone a great day.
And that newsletter is amazing. And we just pronounce it sun, right? There's like the silent H.
Yeah, when we were
Just checking. Because I was like, I don't want to say it wrong.
no,
Right.
and isn't it easier to say than NSSCOP?
It's funny. Okay, so here's a good one. So I'm part of the TAEH, but my new one's called the TAEH Non-Indigenous CAB. So it's TAEH NICAB. And I said, no, like we gotta figure out another name here. That is way too long. People were like, well, who? Anyways, bye. Take care.
thanks,
Nice to
Kim.
see you all.
Thank you all
Bye.
so much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Right.